Well, we're going to get started. My name is Megan Garmers, and I'm with the Bridal Masterclass. Our goal is to make sure that as wedding professionals that you have opportunities to grow your wedding business that will help you exponentially impact couples and their most important day. And I think one of the most important things that we can do as someone who, supports wedding professionals is making sure that you're able to have a business. And so today we're going to talk about how to stop wasting time, which I think we can all agree that we've been guilty of, especially during this pandemic, and how to identify and find your ideal client. Both are really important to making sure that your business doesn't just survive but thrives. And sometimes it really is even about survival because, as we're going to talk about in just a minute, understanding how it is that you're able to make money is really going to be the factor that's going to determine whether or not you get to continue to have a business after we all come out on the other side of this pandemic. So I'm going to start with sharing our PowerPoint here. And if at any time, I'm also going to keep the chat open. So if there's any questions, you can go ahead and let me know. One of the things that when it comes to, uh, again, making sure that we're not wasting time, we're really using it to the best of our ability, is making sure that we fully understand what we need to be doing with our time. And now more than ever, I think time is one of those things that it's both a blessing and a curse. I mean, right now, one thing that we have is time, and yet the time that we have can sometimes almost seem heavy or limited because there is so much going on that's really taking and draining us that otherwise would not. We'd have extra energy to be able to take care of things. So really understanding that that's definitely going to be something that we're going to be chatting about today, because your time is precious. I mean, when it comes down to what you spend your time on, really knowing and understanding what it is that you need to do with that is really imperative. So give me 1 second here. We have some more people who are joining. Okay. Okay. And you can try to ignore my cursor arrow as we go through this. Just want to make sure that everybody can get in and your questions are answered as we go through this. So we're going to talk, like I said, today about understanding how to make the most of our time, stop wasting it, and how to define and where to find your ideal client right now. So I'm not sure if you've heard of the Eisenhower principle. So President Eisenhower had what's called an Eisenhower matrix. Sometimes it's called the urgent important matrix. But there's a quote that he had from a speech that he had given. And to paraphrase the quote, I like to say that the urgent is not always important, and the important is not always urgent. Understanding the difference really helps to make sure that you make the best use of your time because, as I once read, even Beyonce has 24 hours in the day. So, understanding that what we do with it can really make a difference in terms of our success and the success of our business. So, again, my name is Megan Garmers. I have two different businesses I've had over the last 20 years in the wedding industry: MG Hair Makeup and the Bridal Masterclass. And, my passion is really making sure that wedding professionals get the opportunity to learn all of the things about business that are needed for a successful business in this industry. And so I've devoted my time and energies, especially more recently, to making sure that we can help professionals just like you really be able to attain their goals and be able to reach those dreams. So we're going to stop wasting time. We're going to get right to it. and understand the difference between urgent and important. When it comes to understanding the difference between what's urgent and important, it's really important to know that when it, here we go. When you're looking at this matrix to determine what your to-do list items, where they fall into this matrix, it's it's really key to know that there's something to do with each of these squares in this matrix, and that by doing the opposite or doing a different action, it's not going to help you get towards your goals and reach them. So when you're thinking about what is urgent and important, you want to do those things. What's not urgent but important, you need to decide what to do about that. What's urgent and not important, you can delegate to someone else. And what's not urgent and not important, you can delete, get rid of that, not pay it any attention. Understand that every item on your to-do list falls into one of these 4 squares or boxes. Understanding what goes where allows you to be able to focus your energy and your time so that you're not wasting it. And like we talked about earlier, it's one of those things that now more than ever, you want to make sure that you're not wasting any of your time or your energy, because we definitely need that. And when it comes to your business, the number one reason that businesses fail is because there's just a lack of need. So if you don't know who your ideal client is, who is going to need, want, and appreciate your product or service, it's going to be a problem for your business, and in turn, a problem for the longevity, the life of your business, because more than likely, it would end up being a statistic. So in terms of your business plan, what's going to be center at that of that? Understanding your ideal client needs to be the center of your business plan. If you just create a widget, a product, or you just have a service, right? Any and everyone can do that, provide that, or sell that. What's different about your business, about what you have to offer, that should have to do with your ideal client. Because if you don't understand who's going to want to give you money for your product or service, more than likely your business is going to go under. And as we can see, right, most small businesses don't actually make it at all. So year 1, only 8 out of 10 businesses continue on to year 2, and then only 7. So another drops off. By the time we get to year 5, only half of all small businesses make it. The other half have folded. And then if you get to year 10, right, there's only 3 small businesses out of 10 that are still standing. So if you've made it to year 5 or 10, that's fantastic. The interesting part about these statistics is that once we have a world shift in terms of how people buy, what they can buy, where they go for these purchases, everybody starts back at year 1. And the reason for this is because once the world starts to change, the rules change. And if you don't change with the rules, you're playing by an expired or a wrong set of rules that don't apply anymore. And then back to our previous point, people are not going to be buying your product or service. So when it comes to the failing of small businesses, we have cash flow problems, right? There's planning problems and management problems, all factoring in to, again, your ideal client. So defining and finding your ideal client is both important and urgent to the life of your business. And one of the main mistakes that small businesses make is just deciding they want to do something, they want to provide something, and not really thinking about who it is that they are going to be providing it for, to, or because of. By doing that, you have a customer for life. So how do you define your ICA, or your ideal client avatar, as we're going to talk about that? If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I might not answer them right as we're going through everything, but I'll definitely answer them at the end. And I want to make sure that if there's anything that's confusing, that can clear that up for you. So we want to make sure that we're defining more than one ideal client avatar. And the reason for that has to do with the demographic and the psychographic or behavioral aspects of who your ideal client is. And the reason that you're going to do more than one is because there are going to be multiple personas or avatars. When I say avatars, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm not talking about a little emoji from your phone. I'm actually talking about a persona, essentially a list of characteristics that will help you be able to visualize and hone your marketing efforts. So, in terms of demographic, that's what most people think of when they start to define their ideal client. I oftentimes ask people, so do you know who your ideal client is? And one of the things that they say is absolutely, it's someone who's getting married. Okay, well, that doesn't necessarily narrow the field. When you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. So, who is your ideal couple, your ideal client? And the next thing they'll normally say is, well, someone who has a lot of money to spend and someone who trusts everything that I'm going to tell them. So, in other words, you want people who are getting married to just give you money without a reason and without a purpose in what they're giving you money for. The likelihood of that is oftentimes nil, and that is oftentimes the reason why businesses struggle and they wonder where their next client is coming from or why clients aren't booking. You need to know exactly who you're marketing to so that you can hone the images, the copy, the brand message, and even where you are putting your information so that your ideal client can not only find you, but be able to love and tell their friends all about you and what you get to offer. So thinking about demographic information, that is important. So think about, how old are they? What is their age range? Think generationally that way. Their gender, do they identify as one gender or not? Their profession. Oftentimes when you think of accountants or teachers, professors, they're oftentimes a little bit more organized. Not always, but oftentimes more organized. And so, is that someone that you naturally gravitate towards? Their ethnicity. That is definitely a hot topic right now. Understanding that, if you are trying to target uh, couples who are Black or people of color, Indigenous, that you want to make sure that your marketing reflects and represents those couples that you serve. Geolocation. So, not just city and state, think beyond that. Because when you're thinking about, so if we're going to talk about Atlanta, right, there's different parts of Atlanta. You have downtown Atlanta, you have Buckhead, you have areas that are further out in the suburbs, and they're all different. They have different types of individuals who live there. They like different types of things. In New York City, right, there's a difference between Harlem and the financial district or Midtown. So those are things that you want to think about when you are trying to really hone in a geographic location. Education level. So is your ideal client someone who has had some college? Do they have a 4-year degree? Are they using their degree in their profession? And then religion. Is it someone who has strong religious beliefs or someone who might not? Those are all things that you need to be thinking about. You don't necessarily have to have, you don't have to have one or another, defined as one thing. You can have multiple, but understand that those are considerations that you need to be thoughtful about because it's going to change the way that you are marketing to your ideal client. The next thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is you are thinking about the psychographic and behavioral aspects. So when it comes to psychographic and behavioral aspects of your ideal client, what are those deep insights? into the psychology of how and why they're going to make that purchase. Why are they going to say yes to you, to your business? So think about their personality traits, right? Think about, are they the type of person who is more of an introvert or an extrovert? Do they like to hang out with their friends, right? Think about the personality traits. Are they the type that's going to be very outspoken and loud, or are they the type of person who's going to be a little bit more quiet? Think about their lifestyle, right? Do they, and this goes into their life stages, and sometimes can have influencing factors from their geolocation. So again, if you live in a very urban area where you commute and take public transportation, so like New York City, you might take the subway, right? Or in other areas, like if you're in Chicago, you can take, the L, things like that. That's going to be different than if you are in an area where you need to have a car. Everyone has a car, everyone's driving, right? Or if you're in LA and you're essentially parked on a highway somewhere every day you go to work. Those are things that you want to think about. Lifestyle, are they the type that's going to be cooking every meal? Are they going to order takeout? What do? Do they pick something up on their way home from work? Do they have a food service? Do they have meals delivered? What are those aspects of their life that they have to, one, kind of live through, but also to plan for? What consumes their thoughts? What consumes their time? And then again, understanding a little bit more about their frustrations and their wins that they have every day. Understanding their social status, so thinking demographically as well as lifestyle and life stage, when it comes to social status. So is it someone who can afford to essentially have a personal chef, or is it someone who really can't afford to eat out much and is going to be, either cooking at home or eating ramen noodles? What is it about their social status how that's going to influence their buying for your product or service? That's going to be important for you to consider. Um, their attitudes and opinions, interests, and hobbies. So think about, again, right now, there is a lot going on when it comes to both racial injustice as well as the current pandemic. So what are their attitudes and opinions about that? That is really important, because right now there are these topics that are very polarizing, and understanding that, one, if you're on the wrong side of that than your ideal client, that could be a problem. And number two, understanding that there are many right now millennials and some Gen Z, who are essentially the marrying age, who they are looking for, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but they're looking for brands and companies who are speaking out. I'm sure that you've all heard, silence is violence. So white silence in particular, when it comes to the racial injustice topic, white silence is violence. It's a very common thought in terms of this generation right now, is how they're going to be making decisions. So if you're not speaking up on these topics, again, how you speak up is up to you. But if you're not speaking up and kind of choosing what it is that you want to say as part of your brand narrative, not saying anything would actually be detrimental to your brand. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more later as well. Interests, hobbies, really thinking about what do they do when they are wanting to just relax, blow off steam. What's something that they could binge watch forever? What is something that they look forward to? Right? All of those things, again, are going to be kind of windows into who they are. The degree of loyalty, it's 10 times easier to resell to an existing customer than it is to find a new one. With the wedding industry, we're constantly looking for new couples, obviously, unless you have a repeat client, which is not unheard of, but is certainly a little bit more challenging within our industry. But when it comes to others who are like them, I like to think of that as an easy side-by-side sell. So if you have wedding party friends of the couple, those are great individuals that you would hopefully be able to have some type of interaction with, either prior to or during the wedding day, that you could extend through and perhaps make them new clients of yourself as well. So what type of degree of loyalty do they have? You're going to want to consider that, so you can so that you can, just adding a couple more people here, so that you can be able to use that for your marketing efforts. Also, in terms of occasions, obviously for weddings, for special events, if you do birthday parties, milestone events, graduations, those are all things that you want to think about in terms of how it is that they celebrate or don't, and also what it is that they're celebrating or not. So some people, they throw huge birthday bashes. Other people just go out for dinner or maybe don't really celebrate much. Some people do huge gender reveal parties, and others might just put a post on social media. So understanding again who it is that you're trying to target and how you're going to want to define them, it's going to help you as you determine your marketing efforts. Oops, we'll go back here. Okay, so in terms of understanding what you're going to be offering as far as your product or service, that package, knowing how you're going to be using all of these things to create essentially your offer, your package for your ideal client, that's what's going to make your offering a little bit more special. It's going to give you that kind of secret sauce to your ideal client and help them understand that you are the right choice for what they need. So when you're engaging with them, thinking again on how it is that they like to engage, who they like to engage with, and also understand that all of these aspects, they cover both pre-COVID as well as post or during COVID, and they might be different. And also understanding that it's going to be different in terms of in real life. So if they are in person versus if they're doing something online, their lives are going to be a little bit different, look a little bit different each type of situation. And so you need to be able to know, again, what are they, how are they, and why are they this way, so that you can target what it is you're saying, how you're saying it, what you're presenting them with in each situation that's going to be exactly what they need. For example, I'm not sure how many of you are on TikTok, but TikTok is very big right now. And a lot of people are very keen on wasting as much time on TikTok as possible because it's super easy to just keep watching video after video after video. And it's entertaining. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's informational. Sometimes it's just silly. Sometimes it's hilarious, right? So there's all of these different things. If you know that your ideal client's on TikTok, and you can provide information that they're going to, one, not know that they need to know, and two, get that from you, whom they may not have known before. It's a great way to be able to get yourself in front of couples who would, again, want, need, and appreciate what you have to offer. And so thinking about what sets you apart, right? Understand that if you like coffee, there's a million different ways of taking your coffee. Not everyone's going to like it the same way, but there are people who really like it light and sweet, and they like their coffee light and sweet. There's no other way to have it. And then there's some people who like their coffee black. There's no other way to have it but black. Know that these different ideal clients have very specific ways and thoughts about how they're going to make choices and how they're living their lives. If you don't know those things, you can't set yourself apart. So if you don't know what it is that your ideal client wants, what they need, and what they appreciate, how can you offer that to them? So taking the time to do that is really going to help you know exactly what you need to do to be able to give them everything that they're asking and more. So all of these characteristics, they're going to help you define exactly what to offer, So when it comes to maybe the product or the service itself, how you're going to be packaging that. Are you adding that into another type of product or service? What to be posting on social media. So, are there going to be things like I talked about in TikTok that you are going to want to just get in front of your ideal client in any way, shape, and form? Where to advertise. So again, platform decisions. So TikTok versus Facebook versus Instagram, right? Where is your ideal client? Where do they spend the most time? And what do they do there? And then, and more. So thinking about all of the characteristics that we talked about and really thinking about them on so many different levels creates essentially a large list for you to be able to sift through, but also a very large list for you to be able to utilize when it comes to figuring out what it is that you're going to be doing to attract your ideal client. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about a case study. So Progressive Insurance, which I'm sure that you've all seen their commercials. They're very memorable, and they're varied in terms of what they have to offer, the information, as well as the way that they show it. So when we're thinking about what a client wants, and we're thinking of Progressive, if you've seen any of these commercials, I'm sure that that you can agree they're very specific. They are big on humor, and they really target a very specific persona, or client avatar. So when it comes to the ones where the top three, it's like you don't want to be like your parents, or you're turning into your parents, right? So if you grew up in a home and you had both of your parents and they were on the same page all the time, they laughed at the same things, the top left corner photo, right? That was like your childhood, and they dressed like everything about it. You relate to that. And if you relate to that and you are now at the millennial age of purchasing a home for the first time, starting a family, and you start to realize that when you open your mouth, your mother comes out or your father comes out, or you and your husband are now doing things that you thought you would never ever do. You used to, roll your eyes at your parents when they did this. This is who Progressive is targeting. The middle photo, it's definitely where you're essentially turning into your mother, and the far right turning into your father, right? Again, some individuals, they grew up in a single parent household, or they had a more dominant parent role model. So if Progressive only focused on two parent households, they're missing two other demographics that they otherwise need to market to. So when you're thinking about someone like Progressive, they have multiple client avatars, and each one, even though it might be in a similar age group, is going to have different life experiences that they want to be able to relate to. So if you look at the bottom three, so the middle one is from the commercial where there's an a cappella group, right? So a little Pitch Perfect. So if people enjoy that, obviously there's reality shows, and there's all these, different types of, movies, TV shows that you can watch that are about that same topic that people both parody and really like. This is a way to be able to, to really market to them. The bottom right, I mean, how many of you have a friend or a sibling who's like the I'm too cool one, you're not as cool as me, or if you have teenagers, which I do, so you understand the kind of nothing is exciting, you're not like nothing. Nothing is impressive. Again, you relate to that. And then you have on the left, right? Zoom calls. Almost everybody's been on a Zoom call, all the different things about what's going on. They're appealing to that nature as well. More often than not, these are all geared towards millennials. They're all geared towards people who are buying homes, cars, perhaps motorcycles, boats, right? They're going to need insurance, and they're at that life stage where this is their daily life. This is what they're going through. And progressive is saying, hey, I see you and I get you. And for the millennial, they're going to say, you made me laugh. You get me, you see me, I'm going to check you out, right? When it comes to millennials and it comes to Gen Z, one of the most important things is that connection. So if you can't make a connection with them and you don't know who they are, there's a million other businesses who offer what you offer. There's a million other things they can do in terms of scrolling. They're not going to be stopping. So that's going to be a problem for your business. So another case study is Wendy's. Wendy's, if you follow their Twitter, is very specific in who they're targeting. And again, I'm sure that you can kind of imagine who it is that that's behind the keyboard of their Wendy's Twitter, right? So on the left side there, so it says, if you are reply, I'll buy the whole Wendy's menu right now. And so Wendy says, prove it. And then this person puts a photo of, garbage. And Wendy's decides to take a jab and say, thanks for sharing your baby pictures, right? Because they came for trash. And someone says, why are you all like this? And Wendy said, we tried to keep it friendly, but we aren't here to get trashed by someone. Ha ha ha, right? Not only is it, ingenious, they're very fast, lightning fast in terms of comebacks. These are all aspects of Gen Z and millennials that one, it's entertaining for them to watch and read. It's definitely not like what other fast food chains are doing with their Twitter accounts. And they understand that their audience, when they're on Twitter, this is what they're looking for. Really short quips, things that are going to make them, laugh, engage. It's going to give them that little buzz, that, dopamine drip of excitement that they're going to want more the next time. The next Twitter back and forth, it's Wendy's, how do you compare to Carl's Jr.? Carl's Jr. says, LOL, they don't. And Wendy says, yeah, for one, if we were going to diss another restaurant, we'd have more than 0 likes and retweets, RTs, after 13 hours. So, they're basically saying how, nobody is even following Carl's Jr., right? McDonald's, we've announced that by mid-2018, all of our quarter pounder burgers at the majority of our restaurants will be cooked with fresh beef. And so Wendy says, so you're still using fresh beef in most of your burgers in all of your restaurants? Asking for a friend. Again, funny, short, it makes a point, but it's also, it makes a great point for anyone who's deciding between Wendy's and McDonald's. And it's also making the point in a way that's appealing to the nature of what Gen Z and millennials are looking for. The last two, if the beef is never frozen, then how do you guys keep it fresh? And Wendy says refrigerators. And then someone didn't like their jokes and said that they didn't think they were very funny. And Wendy's basically called them a baby. So maybe we should, sell pacifiers too. So those are things that you want to, again, not necessarily emulate, but understand. This is a great case study, use case of how a brand understands their client, understands their customer in a very deep and meaningful way, and how it impacts the way that they interact with them on social media, interacts with them on whatever medium, so television, for progressive, those commercials, and how it, number one, gets their attention, but also number two, it causes them to be top of mind when they're going to be making those decisions, right? So what does a client want? They want to know that you stand for something, that you are about something. If you are just selling tableware, you're just selling plain coffee cups, that's not going to be very exciting, right? If you tell us how it was crafted, what materials were used, the story behind it, it can seem much more exciting and give people a reason as to why they're going to want to purchase that specific coffee cup. Cause versus purpose marketing. Right now, more than ever, it's really important for businesses to show what it is that they believe in. So, cause marketing usually means that you're against something. So, you're against deforestation, you're against pollution. Oftentimes this results in corporate giving, being socially responsible, but it's not necessarily part of the business itself, certainly not part of the business model. And then you have purpose marketing, which is baked into the business and the actual business plan and what they're all about. So when you think about companies like Whole Foods, right, or Seventh Generation, that's purpose marketing because it's about not only providing opportunities for people to, whether it's eat healthy or you know, clean their home without chemicals, but it's also in the way that they produce those products. So it's all part of that company. That's the purpose marketing. Um, when it comes to that brand identity, it is, again, like I said, it's baked in. It's not something separate from what they're all about. When it comes to Gen Z and millennials, 91% are likely to switch to a brand that supports a good cause. This goes back to what we were talking about for attitudes and opinions, things that really light a fire in your ideal client. You need to know what those are because those are the things you want to post about. Those are the things you want to put in your Instagram story. Those are the things that you want to create a TikTok about. It's gonna help them go, yes, 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 every time they see that. That's what you want. 92% are going to buy based on a social or environmental benefit. So when you're thinking about whether it's Black Lives Matter or you're thinking about mask wearing and public health, those are all things that you need to be considering, again, because it's going to impact the actual conversion of your inquiries to clients, and it's also going to impact the interest level that people are going to have based on just an initial kind of interaction that they might have with you. When it comes to um, you know, any type of social benefit or environmental benefit, over half, so 67% of millennials and Gen Z have actually bought a product, based on that impact, based on that benefit in the last year. And this is a study from 2013. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that that is definitely higher when we're considering everything else that's happened in the last 7 years, especially in the last year itself. There is so much more going into the thought process of what people are doing when they're considering what to buy. That psychology is even more important now than it was 7 years ago. So where do we find your ideal client avatar, your ICA, both online and in real life? That's really important to think about, because if you can't find where they are, you don't know where they are, the chances of them seeing that you exist is going to be pretty much zero. So what are the things that we need to remember? So all of the considerations about identifying your ideal client, those are things that, again, are going to come back into helping you decide what it is that that you're going to be looking for in terms of platforms, in terms of locations, of where your ideal client is. So when you know more about them, right, it helps you be able to understand where to find them. So their daily life, are they commuting? Are they working from home? Again, think about this both pre-COVID as well as post-COVID or during COVID. What are those daily frustrations and problems that they're having right now when they're commuting, right? Again, does it take them an hour to go 10 miles because of the traffic? Are they in a crowded subway, right? What types of thoughts do they have about taking the subway during COVID? Are they working from home? Do they have to try to figure out how to navigate a small apartment with their fiance? Are they living at their parents' house right now because there's more room and more space, and they can commute virtually to work. For online, where, like I said, where do they waste most of their time? So TikTok actually gained, so they had over a billion users as of the end of quarter, so first quarter this year, so Q1. Um, and it took Instagram, I think it was like 6 years to get all of that. So TikTok rose to popularity in 3 months, what other platforms have taken years. Obviously, it took Facebook a lot longer to get to the 1 billion mark. So those are things that you want to think about. Where are your ideal clients? Where are they online right now? And why are they there? Do they need an escape? Are they trying to find information? Right? Are they looking for memes because they need a kind of a humor break? What is it that they're looking for and spending time on, and what is it that you can do to be in front of them while they're there? This also goes into the Instagram insights and understanding exactly where your ideal clients are, where your followers are, when they're actually on the platform, time of day, day of the week, right? All of that makes a difference. If you're not sure how to use your Instagram insights, let me know, and we can send you some information to kind of do a little bit more deep dive into that. But those are going to be really helpful for you to know exactly, again, what and when to post, so that you are really able to target who's online at that time, to be able to make sure that they can, number one, see it, and that the algorithm then is going to be able to push that forward to more people who are following you anyways. Or when it comes to hashtags, utilizing those in ways that, again, people are going to be able to utilize those for you. When it comes to the pre and post COVID, like I was saying, what's changed in their life, both in real life, right? Wearing masks in public, maybe not going out to eat as much, not meeting friends at bars. Are their online habits changed? Are they in front of a computer more or less? Are they in front of their phone more or less? Are they on a tablet more or less? What are the things that, again, that they're doing on a regular basis now that's different? What are they doing now that's the same? Those are going to be really insightful for you when determining what platforms, what you're choosing to post, when and why. So if we did a case study for this, let's say that it's a yoga teacher, right? If you're a yoga teacher um, or a nutrition coach, right, in terms of like your daily life, right, thinking about what the daily life of someone you're wanting to target would be. So maybe they're between the ages of 20 and 30, young or mid-aged, maybe they did some college or four-year college. Maybe they're very anxious about everything that's going on. They're very distracted by life. It's hard for them to focus right now. Maybe they have a gym membership or an online membership, but they don't really use it very often. Perhaps they like yoga over kickboxing. They're not going to be in that HIIT or weightlifting class. They're going to be more in like a Pilates or a yoga class. What are some ways then to be able to use that information from creating your ideal client avatar in order to find out where they are? So perhaps in real life, you're going to partner with a yoga studio. Maybe they offer Zoom yoga right now, or maybe they have outdoor classes with social distancing, right? If you're partnering with them to offer a discount to members, right? Following hashtags that popular, if you're a yoga teacher, that the yoga teacher would, that a yoga student would be following. So looking at other yoga teachers, their posts, and looking at the hashtags that they're using on a regular basis and the types of posts that they're posting. Also looking at how many comments, not just likes, but comments, each of those posts are getting. So what posts are really yielding a better conversion or a better interaction engagement rate? And again, those are the ones that you're going to want to think about posting something similar to that for your account. Making sure that you're using the location in Instagram. So for a post, you can add a location. For a story, you can also add a location, and that's really helpful to make sure that you can get in front of more people. That's something that you want to think about using. Again, you can use a very specific location. So if you're at a specific venue, or in terms of using the location as a city and state. When you use a specific location in Instagram that is a venue's location, for instance, it's going to not only show that very small area around the location, but it's also going to show a larger area in terms of city and state. So if someone's looking at, like for example, Atlanta, right? If they're looking at the factory in Atlanta, and you put down the factory as your location, if someone's looking at the Atlanta location, that will also show, your post will show up in their location search as well. So that's something to think about. And then creating TikTok. So during this case study, the yoga teacher decides that they want to create TikTok videos for busy professionals to de-stress, or if they're a nutritionist, quick and easy meal prep tips for healthy meals or healthy snacks, right? If you're an event planner, you could do quick and easy tips to, again, maybe it's de-stress during your wedding planning process, or don't forget to do these 3 things when you're rescheduling your wedding because of COVID, right? What are those things that you can lend insight, information, and be helpful on something like TikTok or Instagram, where individuals, your ideal clients, are going to be able to not only read it, see it, but connect with it. That's what you want to do when you're actually figuring out what you're posting and then where you're posting those things, so that you are in front of your ideal client when they're there and when they're ready to be able to see that. So remember that understanding your ideal client is both important and urgent to the life of your business. There are businesses left and right every day that are folding, large businesses, small businesses, and even before the pandemic, we had businesses that were teetering on the edge of bankruptcy or closing because they didn't make the switch soon enough. Right. So if that's, I think the latest was Brooks Brothers. You had companies like Victoria's Secret, obviously, J.C. Penney, you have Blockbuster Video. I mean, I'm not sure if any of you remember when, Blockbuster Video, that was the place to go. There was no Netflix. There was no internet. You went to Blockbuster Video and you rented a VHS tape. And that's what you did. And, you made sure that you rewound that when you were done, or else you'd get charged another fee. Those are things that Blockbuster Video could have been the next Netflix, but it chose to stay with what was comfortable when the world is changing. The world is changing now, faster, and in more ways than we can even imagine sometimes. So keeping up with it seems like a full-time job. And when it comes to the lifeline of your business, it really is your job. Because if you don't know who it is that you're marketing to, all those efforts, all of those dollars, all that energy is going to go by the wayside, because your ideal client's not going to see that you are the right choice for them. So one of the questions we had here was more info on how to use Instagram Insights. Yes. So when it comes to Instagram Insights, you want to make sure that specifically for your type of business, that you are looking at a few different things. So let me back up. One thing when it comes to your ideal client, a common question, and this relates, a common question that oftentimes get is, so if I don't know who my ideal client is, how do I find out all these answers about them? And that's really important to think about 2 things. One, if you are just starting out and you do not have any clients yet, It's very hard for you to know who your ideal client is. However, if you get started and, as I say, kiss a few frogs before you get to your prince or princess, understand that that's going to be valuable information. You might not know what you like and don't like to work with until you've actually worked with multiple clients, right? Perhaps you have worked with multiple clients and you understand, like, this is my favorite client, this is my least favorite client, I never want to work with them again. Or if I could work with this client over and over again, my life would be set. That's going to be good information for you, right? I don't say stalk per se, but stalk in a loose term. Their social media. Are they on Instagram? Do they post a lot? Do they not? Are they on TikTok? Do they post a lot? Do they not? Are they on Facebook? Do they post a lot? Do they not? What do they post? When do they post? Right? Those are going to be really important for you, again, to just do some recon and really get to know what those habits are, because oftentimes they don't even recognize those habits as habits. They're not thinking about them as they're doing them. When it comes to looking at perhaps a demographic that you are not really sure about, thinking about what brand do you most closely identify with, right? So whose ideal client is going to be your similar to your ideal client pool, and then looking at their social media posts, trying to reverse engineer essentially an ICA from what they're posting. And then also when and how and where they're posting those things. Really taking the time to think, okay, are they posting video? Are they posting photos? Are they doing a carousel? Are they posting a lot on their stories? When do they post to their stories? And if you look, there's if you're on Instagram, so usually I like to say if you're on between 9 and 12, and then between 12 and 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, right? You can usually be able to tell approximately what times they're on, because if their post is coming through, you look at their post and it says posted um, 56 minutes ago, right? 2 hours ago, or yesterday, it has the date. It gives you, again, a good information of how often they're posting, when they're posting, what types of forms they're posting, right? Are they posting memes? Are they posting, short form or long form videos? Is it on their IGTV? What are they posting on their IG stories? All of those things are going to be important factors for you to consider as you're kind of looking through all that information to help kind of glean and determine what you're going to be doing for your own social media. For Instagram in particular, the insights can be helpful, but only if the people who are following you are part of your ideal client avatar set. So if everyone who's following you on Instagram right now are your personal friends and family, that's not necessarily going to be helpful. If everyone who's following you, or the majority of the people who are following you, are part of that ideal client avatar set, then that's going to be helpful. It's going to tell you, again, times that they're going to be most active, days they're most active. If you look at each post and you tap on insights, it's near the bottom of the photo. You tap on that insights, a little kind of window pops up, and it gives you how many people have viewed it, how many people have, kind of gone to your profile. If you kind of swipe up on that, you're going to see more information pop up. It's going to have how many people saw that from their home screen feed, how many people from the hashtags you used, how many people saw that from your profile when they were, let's say they saw your latest post, then they went to your profile, and then they saw another post that they were interested in, they tapped on that, right? That would be a from your profile. There's also Explore, so the kind of discovery or the Explore page on Instagram. Perhaps you showed up on there because you're using hashtags, or again, maybe they tapped on something from your story. So there's all these different ways that people can see your posts and interact with them. Understanding those habits is going to help you make sure that you're creating more viral content that's naturally engaging, and that's what we want to do on social. I've heard Sometimes you're actually, you or your, yeah. So sometimes April says, sometimes you can actually be your ideal client. And that's true. Sometimes you can. Oftentimes what happens is people who are starting businesses, they have a problem and they're thinking of a solution and they come up with a solution and they're like, if I have this problem, other people must have this problem. So I'm going to create the solution and make a lot of money and have a business. In theory, that can make sense and sometimes that works, but sometimes it does not. What you want to know is not just if you can solve your own problems, but if you can solve other people's problems and who those people are and what those problems are. That will always change. Specifically in the wedding industry, couples are always getting younger. Well, not really. Couples aren't necessarily getting younger. We're getting older, but I like to pretend that we're all just staying the same age because that means that I'm, uh, still the age of couples versus the age of their parents, which is more of a reality now. But those are things that, again, you want to be considerate of, because if you are no longer the age of your couples, what you as your own ideal client would want or think, it's not going to be true. So think again about not just you as your ideal client, but thinking about what aspects of yourself would make you your own ideal client. What aspects of yourself would not make you your own ideal client? And how will that change in 5 years, right? Your ideal client avatar should constantly be changing. I would say every year, even thinking obviously in the wake of this pandemic, thinking about every month. It's going to change at every phase reopening or closing or pausing. All of that's going to determine new aspects of their daily life, new aspects of their online habits, social media habits. If there's a new app that comes out, those are all going to be considerations that you need to take in and understand, okay, do I need to be on that platform? Do I need to do something different on that platform? And maybe you don't use TikTok, but your ideal client probably does. So what are you doing or not doing on it? Right? Even though maybe you're the same age, or maybe you have other things in common with your ideal client, maybe you don't use that platform personally, but you're going to need to use that professionally so that you can get in front of them. Does that make sense? Any other questions about kind of ideal client avatars? We're going to go back to the regular viewing here. If you guys have any questions about the slides, I'm happy to go back to that as well, and we can flip back. But I know one question, someone who wasn't able to join, she had left a question before, was when you're thinking about your ideal client avatar, and kind of creating these different individuals essentially, you know what if you have these holes in who they are, or the things that you know about them don't seem like they would be a natural fit. So like, let's say that you're in the wedding industry and your ideal couple is someone who loves cycling, right? They love to bike, and you don't really like to bike, and you don't necessarily think that you wouldn't necessarily partner with like a cycling club, or you wouldn't necessarily partner with perhaps a cycling store, right? While you might not have that very tangible or concrete partnership, using that understanding about, again, what they like, looking at who are the most popular online accounts, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that talk about fitness, that talk about cycling. What are the most popular apps that someone who enjoys cycling would use? What are the most popular brands? And then looking at some of their posts, looking at when they're posting, what they're posting, what they're saying in their captions, how much engagement they're getting. That's going to give you more information in terms of what you need to do based on their interest, right? Because oftentimes if we're interested in one thing, one aspect of it, it's going to kind of bleed into other areas. And that's where you can kind of, cross pollinate that information so that it's useful for you. And again, if you don't have a lot of those people following you already, it's a great way to be able to get to know kind of that community of people. Okay. There's so many places to advertise and market. So thoughts on not overspending for your ROI. ROI is extremely important, and the beauty of social media is that it really has become the democratization of advertising. Clearly, you can boost posts, you can take out Facebook ads. There's a million different ways. I know TikTok just started with their advertising. There's a lot of different ways that you can spend money. You have The Knot, you have Wedding Wire, you have companies like Zola. You can advertise with different wedding blogs. There's tons of ways that you can spend money. However, some of the best ways to advertise without spending money are making sure that your social media and your hashtag game is strong, knowing exactly what you need to do to target your ideal client. And this really comes back to taking ownership of your business in a way that business owners didn't always have to do in the past. In the past, it was much more about just paying and advertising with a company like The Knot. And now that there's so many different ways that couples really get their information about planning their wedding, inspiration about what to do for their wedding or how to do it, there's a lot of ways that you can essentially advertise, market your business that are not going to be a traditional kind of advertising dollar spend that you would otherwise do. So think about styled shoots, right? What content can you create and submit for publication? Other than actually creating the styled shoot, that's free. It's a great way for you to be able to network with other vendors as well. That's another really good and solid way of creating more buzz about your business and increasing the number of clients. Make sure though that you're finding kind of your group, your tribe, your network of people that really identify in the same vein that you do. So if you do more boho chic weddings and very dark and moody photos versus someone who's doing ballroom weddings, with really large kind of like candelabra sculptures and chandeliers, if that's your kind of vibe, that's going to be very different. So make sure again that you're diversifying that in a way that is helpful for your ideal client, but also not confusing. And then also think about, like we were talking about before, diversifying your portfolio to make sure that you are being inclusive of different ethnicities and showing different types of love. So if you like to and want to serve more LGBTQ plus couples, you need to be able to show that in your photos. People don't want to buy what they haven't seen, so they want to know that they're not your guinea pig, right? That you're not a first timer. So if they see that in the photos and the images that you put out there, it's going to be a much easier sell, and there's going to be much more interest in contacting you versus someone who doesn't have any of those. In terms of the additional aspects of ROI, just making sure that, again, you really understand who that ideal client is so that every aspect of what you're doing just resonates over and over again. So think back to what I was saying about the progressive commercials, right? Those are on, TV, on the internet, right? They're essentially, they're there for everyone. So whether or not someone is their ideal client or not, they're going to see it. However, whether or not it's their ideal client that sees it or not, the fact that they are appealing to humor, they're appealing to information, right? And what's kind of called infotainment, they're appealing to all of that. So even if, let's say that it's their parents who see that commercial, you're turning into your parents, and they're like, that's hilarious. I have to tell my daughter about that because she made a comment the other day. Did you see? And then you can say, did you see that, Progressive commercial? As a brand, that's what you want. You want, whether it's your ideal client seeing it, being like, that's me, I love it, I'm all about that, or someone else who recognizes that's that person, friend, family member, whoever, I need to tell them about it, right? That's gold mine right there. That's the best ROI that you could ever have, because you are then appealing to a very specific ideal client, but you're doing it in a way that's engaging even people who are not your ideal client to tell your ideal client about you, right? Thank you for answering how to advertise without spending. Yes, I think that one of the things people need to recognize is that how you spend in your business today is not the same way that you would spend in your business 20 years ago. So when I started in the wedding industry 20 years ago, there are very specific ways that you spent on advertising. You took out your print ad, your full page print ad, right? Thousands of dollars. You took out additional ads in other small newsletters or publications or things like that. Very important. You would advertise on like the Knot. Internet was a new thing at that point. So once the Knot kind of got up and running, that's where you would advertise. It was the latest and greatest. There were wedding directories in local markets. Books, it sounds crazy now, but actual physical books that people would like take home with them from a wedding fair. You would advertise at a wedding fair. So all of those things would be how you'd spend your money, and you wouldn't necessarily spend your time or energy on actually creating an ideal client avatar. You just kind of put it out there like, hey, I do a really good job at this, hire me. Now, spending that extra time, investing in your business education, investing in quality photos. Perhaps you do a photo shoot with a photographer and you have to pay for all those images. Maybe you create a styled shoot with everyone and everyone chips in because the rentals and the floral and perhaps aspects of the catering had to be, taken care of. That is something that you want to think of as your marketing, your advertising spend now. That's different than how you would consider that 20 years ago. So really think through, what are those things that are going to help me be able to advertise my business better in ways that maybe, again, I don't have to spend the same amount of money. You could spend $100 on Google Ads or Facebook ads, and that's going to be a very different $100 spend than a $100 listing in a print magazine, right? Know what you're spending your money on and know where your ideal client is, so that the money that you're spending, no matter where it is going to be at the right place at the right time. So one thing in terms of engagement, which is always a hot topic, engagement is the key. So for any social media posts, you want to make sure that you're not just getting likes. It's kind of a passive form of, so I like to say that likes are the new eyeballs, right? So eyeballs essentially were a big thing for many, and still are, the reach that you can get, how many people can see your post, how many people can see your website, how many people visit there. That's great. But more important than that is how many people are not just liking, because that's a pretty passive tap, right? But how many people are commenting, and not just commenting, but 4 words or more. That's Instagram's, it's part of their algorithm. Not counting emojis, 4 words or more counts as quality engagement, where they are going to then boost your post and actually put that in front of more of your followers, more people who follow that hashtag, because it is then seen and deemed as ooh, this is good. This person likes it enough to engage with it. Therefore, the likelihood of other people who follow the same hashtag, follow the same account, let's put that in front of them as well. See if it does well. The likes are great, but because they changed that algorithm, engagement is more important. So how do you get engagement? That could be its own entire webinar, but to kind of give you some information that you can take home today in terms of, you know, that engagement, you want to know, so the people who like you, right, so they liked the post, the photo, you want to go back in and kind of see who are they, right? Is there any way that I could engage with them on their account? So are there photos there that you can like, comment, share, or save, right? Because those are all ways of engaging. Um, and again, kind of starting a conversation with them. That's going to help them want to have a conversation with you on your post. So that's number one. Number two is making sure that there's some type of CTA, some type of call to action. If you want people to post comments on there, you need to tell them what you want. Just like on a website, just like on anything, if you're not telling them what the next logical step is going to be, they're like, that's great, next. So you need to be able to ask them a question. You need to be, what types of comments do you want them to make? Think about, again, how it is that you'd like them, you know, to engage with your post, with your photos, with your video, right? And again, perhaps it's something like, you know, I would say don't just put double tap if you agree. I would say something like comment below if you agree, or, you know, put the heart eyes emoji in the comments below if you agree. You know, don't you just love, you know, this sunset? You know, what's your favorite sunset colors? Do you like the orange and yellow and reds, or do you like more of the blues and purples and pinks? Right? You can kind of, there's a million different ways that you can create questions that are engaging. And again, kind of help you get to know a little bit more about who your audience is on Instagram, which may or may not be your ideal client. And again, those are things that you need to think about, because if you're essentially garnering an audience, but it's not your ideal client, maybe you need to rethink who your ideal client is, so that you can really take advantage of individuals who are already liking the things that you're posting. So those are kind of considerations to be thinking about for engagement. Let's see here. You're welcome. And also, just as a note, in terms of the difference between Instagram and Facebook, people post and comment differently on Instagram and Facebook. And that's something that, you know, in thinking about going back through all of the different qualities, the demographic, psychographic, and behavioral qualities, looking at where they're going to be spending, what platforms they're spending their time on, and what they're doing on there is really important. So when you think about things like articles, when you think about like longer form um, information, or you think about, you know, maybe a personal conversation, Facebook is definitely more so in line with that. You definitely have an older generation that is on Facebook, that's normally kind of actively on it, whereas Instagram is kind of mid-age to younger. And then you have TikTok, which is a range, but primarily started with more Gen Z kind of active users, and has now branched over. So those are things that you want to think about. Again, people are not going to really be posting as many comments on something like TikTok versus Instagram and Facebook. And the same thing goes, you know, not as many comments on Instagram versus Facebook. And the ones on Instagram are actually going to be generally shorter comments than what the comments on Facebook are going to be. So thinking again on what it is that you're calling them to action on, and how it is that you're going to make it easy for them to engage and essentially give you information, talk to you, or help you understand a little bit more about maybe a question that you have about who they are, what they like, or even how they engage with you, so that you can kind of hone that in terms of your marketing that you're going to be putting forth. All right. Great. Any other questions at all about anything that I chatted about? I know it's a lot of information. Most every slide on there could have its own webinar and could definitely go deep dive into. Yes, so in terms of, yes, so yes and yes, I see a couple of questions come through. If you came in late, it's not a problem. So we are recording this, and so the video of this, we'll send you a link. You can watch that so that you didn't have to miss anything. If you have questions afterwards, you can go ahead and email or DM us. Happy to answer those for you. I do offer business coaching. So if you are interested in doing that and doing real deep dives in terms of not just who your ideal client is, but really how to create that business that's going to work for you. And I like to say it's a little bit of a shortcut. Not that we encourage shortcuts per se, but really, making it a little bit more of a concerted effort in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it. If you're the type of person who, you have no problem working hard and doing X, Y, Z, and that's you, that's great. But you would rather have someone tell you X, Y, Z instead of figuring out which letter of the alphabet and how far down you need to go. And that's what really business coaching does. So it helps you kind of shortcut your way to that success. You can go ahead and reply to the email that you had received, and we can give you information about that if you're interested. Also have additional downloadables. We have online courses, and again, happy to help however it is that we can. We're going to be offering another webinar coming up in a couple weeks. It's going to be on Instagram and social media. So it's definitely a topic that I think is well worth everyone's time, especially now, just like we were talking about at the end, because this world of advertising now is definitely more democratized, and we need to make sure that we all know how to best take advantage of it, so that you can spend your time, money, and energy getting the most bang for your buck. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. And if you haven't already, make sure that you sign up for future notifications. If you go to our website, thebridalmasterclass.com, on the homepage there, I think about midway through, it says sign up for the latest and greatest news and updates. You can put in your information there, and so that way you're on our mailing list, so that you can get information about the next webinar that we have. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We do have a TikTok as well, a TikTok account, and Twitter. And again, happy to answer any questions that you might have and be able to help you that way. So we'll look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks so much for joining, and hope you guys have a great rest of the week.